Ambrosia is an American rock band formed in Southern California in 1970. Ambrosia had 5 top 40 hit singles between 1975 and 1980, including the top 5 hit Biggest Part of Me. Most of the original band members have been active with the group continuously for the past 25 years to the present day. Ambrosia currently tours internationally and has worked in the past and present with Leonard Bernstein, Kurt Vonnegut Jr., Alan Parsons, Bruce Hornsby, and most recently Michael McDonald, among other notable artists. In 2015 the group released a new single and plans to release an album of all new material in late 2015. Formation and inspiration: the group was founded as a quartet with guitarist-vocalist David Pack, bassist-vocalist Joe Puerta, keyboardist Christopher North, and drummer Burleigh Drummond. They chose the name Ambrosia in 1970 to represent a vision of their music, all shades, textures, colors and styles. While Ambrosia had many radio hits in the 1970s, much of the material on their 5 albums is progressive in nature. The founding constituents of Ambrosia were reared in Southern California's South Bay, later adopting San Pedro as their hometown. Their initial musical influences, like many of their generation, came from the Beach Boys and the Beatles. Ambrosia fused symphonic art rock with a slick-produced pop sound, resulting in a melodic prog style. Early on, the band was infatuated with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and began to experiment with vocal harmonies. After the group attended a show at the Whiskey A Go Go in December 1969 to see an unknown but highly recommended new band called King Crimson, their perception of music was changed. The musicians, inspired by the music and artists of the progressive rock era, acquired a significant regional admiration. In 1971 a friend who was doing sound for the Hollywood Bowl invited them to play there on stage to test a new sound system that had been installed. Gordon Parry, the head engineer in charge at the Bowl, was so impressed with the group that he invited them back to attend performances by the Los Angeles Philharmonic. He introduced them to conductor Zubin Mehta, who featured Ambrosia as part of the so-called All-American Dream Concert. 1970s, the group auditioned for Herb Alpert and A&M Records early on but the audition did not go well. Although it has been alleged by some sources that the band members showed up late and heavily intoxicated to the audition, all of the band members showed up on time and sober. In spite of their poor performance, Alpert let the band do some demos. Eventually they signed with Rubicon Management, which eventually landed the group a deal with 20th Century Fox Records. The first album, Ambrosia, produced by Freddie Pyro, was released in February 1975. It spawned the top 20 chart single Holdin' On to Yesterday as well as the minor hit Nice, Very Nice. The latter sets to music the lyrics to a poem in Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle. The album was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Engineered Recording. Alan Parsons was the engineer for Ambrosia's first album and the producer for their second. All 4 members of Ambrosia played on the first Alan Parsons Project album, Tales of Mystery and Imagination, which was recorded soon after Ambrosia's first album. David Pack later appeared on the Alan Parsons album Try Anything Once, co-writing, playing and providing vocals on 3 songs. After lengthy touring, the band returned in September 1976 with Somewhere I've Never Traveled. The album yielded the title song and the single Can't Let a Woman, which both became FM favorites, both featuring lush orchestration and vocal arrangements. The record sleeve folded into a large pyramid. Somewhere I've Never Traveled received a Grammy nomination and set the stage for the band's signing to Warner Brothers Records. In 1976 the group covered the Beatles' song Magical Mystery Tour for the transitory musical documentary All This and World War II. A film's soundtrack consisted of different groups providing arrangements of Beatles songs. Their version of Magical Mystery Tour scored a top 40 hit and has since been a staple of their live shows. In August 1978 Life Beyond LA was released. It marked a move away from their lush arrangements and introduced a more raw, aggressive jazz R&B influence. Christopher North, who had family obligations and was not totally happy with the group's shift away from the sound of the first 2 albums, left the group in 1977 during the album's recording. The year 1978 marked their biggest pop breakthrough with their first gold single, How Much I Feel from the album, which was a number 3 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Warner Brothers advertised the title cut for radio, and Life Beyond LA started to get significant airplay on radio stations a few months after the album's release. Extensive touring with Fleetwood Mac, Heart, and the Doobie Brothers, in addition to major headlining shows, cemented Ambrosia's reputation as a live act. For the '78 touring band, North returned and the group added a second keyboardist, David C. Lewis, as well as an additional singer Royce Jones. 1980s and 1990s. In 1980 Warner Brothers released 180, which produced two of the year's biggest hits. The first, Biggest Part of Me, reached number 3 for 3 weeks on the Hot 100 and crossed over to the Soul chart, where it peaked at number 35. The second, another blue-eyed soul hit, You're the Only Woman, reached number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. 180 earned the band 3 Grammy nominations, including Best Pop Vocal Group. A headlining world tour followed. For the Japanese leg of the tour, the group was joined by their longtime friend guitarist, harmonica, vocals Cliff Woolley. The title of the album 180 was believed by fans to signal the group's 180-degree change in direction. In actuality, it was so named because it was recorded in January 1980. They dedicated one of their songs to Sandy Clark. In 1980 the band contributed the song Outside to the movie Inside Moves, and the following year placed another track, Poor Rich Boy, on the soundtrack of the movie Arthur. In 1982 David C. Lewis briefly left the touring group to be replaced by Bruce Hornsby, 4 years before his own rise to stardom. The same year, Ambrosia released their fifth and final studio album, Rhode Island, their first effort without the assistance of Freddie Pyro's production company. Produced by James Guthrie, the album consisted of intense, driving hard rock. Though it scored a minor hit with How Can You Love Me, the album was a commercial disappointment. The band broke up afterwards, ending their run of chart success. After Ambrosia, David Pack pursued a solo career and produced or worked with many top artists. Pack's 1985 solo album, Anywhere You Go, included the song Prove Me Wrong, which also appeared on the soundtrack of the 1985 film White Nights. Joe Pewter became a founding member of Bruce Hornsby and The Range. In 1989 Ambrosia reunited with all 4 original members and began playing live shows again, mostly on the West Coast. They expanded their touring ranks once again with Tolak Hollestad and Shem von Schrock. In May 1997 Warner Brothers released Ambrosia's Greatest Hits CD, Anthology, which contained tracks from all 5 albums plus 3 new tracks. In addition to Anthology, the entire Ambrosia catalog was remastered and released on CD. 2000s and beyond, the band launched a 30th anniversary tour in 2000. Later that year Pack permanently left the band and he was replaced by Doug Jackson, who had filled in for him for some shows the previous year. Pack's final show with the band was on November 4, 2000 in Chandler, Arizona. Ricky Cosentino filled in for Shem for some concerts in 1998, 1999, 2000 and 2003. Shem then left in 2003 to join Kenny Loggins' band. Robert Berry, formerly of 3 and GTR, joined temporarily in 2004 to 2005, and singer-guitarist Ken Stacy became a member in 2005. Shem then returned and he and Stacy alternated with the group for a while. Tolak Hollestad left in late 2004 to concentrate on a solo career and relocate to the Netherlands where he has had success. David C. Lewis then returned, after having substituted for Tolak on some 1999 and 2003 gigs. But Tolak remained on call to sub for various band members and came back to play with Ambrosia's Spring 2009 tour in place of Lewis and Shem. In 2010 Rick Cowling came in on vocals, guitar and keyboards, though Tolak still appeared with the band from time to time, most recently in 2010 when Doug Jackson was out playing guitar for Gary Wright and Tolak handled keys once again while Cowling moved over to lead guitar until Jackson's return later in the year. Ambrosia appeared on the May 2, 2011 episode of Late Night with Jimmy Fallon as part of the host's Yacht Rock 2K11 theme show, performing Biggest Part of Me, and How Much I Feel. Since 2012, Burleigh's wife Mary Harris is performing on keyboards and vocals with the group. Harris is also a vocal arranger and songwriter who has worked in varied capacities with Pink Floyd, XTC, Stanley Clarke and for many years with Jimmy Buffett. Ken Stacy rejoined in 2014 after Rick Cowling departed. The current six-person lineup has been stable since that time, and Ambrosia continues to tour, sometimes combining their talents with other artists including Michael McDonald, Edgar Winter, Dave Mason, Gary Wright, Al Stewart and others. Ambrosia's live performances showcase both their legacy hit material and more recent songs. Ambrosia continues to feature a majority of the band's founding members, with Puerta, Drummond and North on stage, as they have been for the past 25 years. Live and alumni albums. On September 1, 2001 the band recorded a live album at the Galaxy Theatre in Santa Ana, California without David Pack. This album, Live, was released in May 2002. Also, in 2003 Collectibles Records released another compilation album, How Much I Feel and Other Hits. Several compilation albums and another live album have been released, though none officially from the band. In 2004, the band released a DVD called Ambrosia, Real Artists Working. Ambrosia has written and performed new material, and an album of all new original material is currently being recorded, their first since 1982. David Pack released two 2005 solo projects, Unborn, a compilation of older unreleased material, and the more up-to-date The Secret of Movin' On featuring collaborations with Timothy B. Schmidt of Eagles fame, former Journey vocalist Steve Perry, Heart legend Dan Wilson and America co-founder Dewey Bunnell amongst others. Both albums follow in Pack's later era style of smooth pop rock. Members' solo projects. Several members have established careers outside of Ambrosia. Joe Puerta has started a studio near his suburban Milwaukee home, The Exchange, where he's produced several artists including Lay Loki, Big Nick and the Sidicos, Alaria Taylor and the Good Luck Joes. Burleigh drummed for Roots CCM's supergroup Lost Dogs for several albums. He and Mary Harris co-founded their own group, Tin Drum, which has released 3 albums to date. Tin Drum also become a production company with such varied artists on their roster as bluesman Mighty Mo Rogers and kids-oriented gospel act Kingdom Bound. Doug Jackson has a solo album planned for release in 2015. Discography: 1975, Ambrosia, 1976, Somewhere I've Never Traveled, 1978, Life Beyond LA. 1980, 180, 1982, Rhode Island, 1987, Anthology. Band members. References. External links, Facebook https, www.facebook.com/ Ambrosia-2826022969119, official website, Hui, Steve. Ambrosia, biography. Allmusic. Retrieved March 22, 2011. Michael McDonald sits in with Ambrosia in a tribute to the late B.B. King in May, 2015.